We're still getting a few people entering, but I just want to say welcome to the Now Show. My
Yay!
name my name is Grace Cho, and here with me is
Hi, everybody. I'm Robin.
we're so excited to have you here today. This is a bit of an experimentation. We've never tried this before. As a classical musician, we're used to not talking and just bow, play, and leave. So hope this goes well. Um, let's see. And then this is the Korean heart. Robin, you look absolutely amazing.
Thank you. So do you, Mama.
And so here we go. We heard some really cool music performed by Robin as we everyone entered. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for this. This is really wonderful. It's great to see everybody. This is welcome to 2021, right? The extension of
Mm-hmm.
2020. Oh, hi, everybody. This is just amazing. I think I've gone from being upset that we had to resume to online communications to now it's thrilling and exciting to see people in real time. So this is beautiful and it's really awesome to see everybody here. Um, but yeah, I'm just excited for the future. And we call this the Now Show, but now is just the back end of the future. So this is cutting edge in what we're doing, being connected this way, and still finding ways to stay connected despite a time where, we've been asked to separate
Mm-hmm.
indefinitely. And we're just starting to come back together. So that's really, really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh, thank you,
Yeah.
Debbie.
Yeah, I mean, we've been away. I haven't seen many of you. I mean, most of you, except for my hubby here, at all. So this is great. And I have to say, I love this platform because I just had a dinner with a bowl of rice and kimchi, and I'm not worried. I'm not gonna bother anyone. So this is perfect. I've got my glass of wine here because we've already
Ooh.
performed and recorded all of our pieces. So it's like we're good to go.
Yeah, there's some serious anxiety relief in that, knowing that,
Right.
okay, it's done, it's done, and now we can be a part of the audience. How rare is it that
Oh
the
my God.
audience gets to witness themselves
Right.
and
We
witness the
never
moment
get to do that.
ever?
Yeah. So I was just kind of going back and reminded of when we first met each other. And that is actually through the very first concert of the New Orchestra of Washington. The very first concert we gave was the Appalachian Spring by Copland at Westmoreland Church in Bethesda. And you were a violist. And I think we have a little bit of clip from that time.
Wow.
Yeah, that's there you go.
Oh,
There you
oh,
go. Oh my God. That is like 9 years ago.
that's crazy.
That is crazy. And yeah, that was our very first concert, and that's where we met. And we've done so many concerts together. But then life happens, and then at the beginning of the pandemic, I knew you transitioned your career from full-time musician to actually being a nurse, and we've connected each other. I was so like worried sick about you fighting at the front line as an ER nurse at the beginning of the pandemic. And we sort of talked on the phone, And then I realized that Robin just has so much to give. And that just coming out and hearing you play, which is enough for anyone else, but it was not enough from you. So that's how I started to think about all that you have and all that you can share, and thought of this idea, and added my name there, right there, because I'm not gonna pass that opportunity. So how has it been for you?
Oh, thank you for asking. Going back to that clip, my eyes are tearing up because Copeland, that piece itself is dear and to my heart as well as many people's hearts, but I'm flooded with memories when I hear that piece because it brings me back to every time I've performed it. I was going through a different period of my life. And that particular concert was very poignant for me because I was actually in the midst of a rocky marriage, I'll say. And that Copeland was a moment of solace. And um, I'm always led to the dance. I think of the choreography that goes with the ballet and the music. And that's what I was thinking while I was playing. I was
Wow.
escaping my current reality, which was,
Right, right.
to sit in that chair in Westmoreland Church and to be introduced to a new family, the Now family. It was a beautiful convergence for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've been connected ever since. And, nursing, to jump forward a little bit and not really jumping forward. As a musician, I've always been a nurse. And as a nurse, I've always been a
Right.
It's not really separate, it's part of the same spectrum. The only thing that differs is the time in which things started. Um, but being, in the emergency room setting in Baltimore before the pandemic started, and then at the onset of the pandemic, it was like two worlds clashing. And
Wow.
there was an explosion of so many emotions on the outside in the rest of the world, but also within the hospital setting. So it
Mm-hmm.
was it was an amazing
Mm-hmm.
experience that showed me that the importance of human connectivity is vital. It goes before anything else because healing doesn't happen in a vacuum. We have
Mm-hmm.
to be connected, and music is the same way. We make music. It's so hard not to be able to touch you or to hear your breath. But thanks to Zoom and other platforms, I can see your hands. I feel that I'm with you. I'm still connected to you. So
Right.
nursing
Which
and
is
life.
amazing. It's when collaborating with other people actually in music, breathing together is one of the most important thing. And we had to put together four pieces without ever breathing together. But I have to say, Robin, I mean, you're like my sister from another mother. Is that how you say it? Because I sort of like I imagined you playing it, and then I lay down my piano track. And for those of you who've seen only how the outcome of it, but what goes behind, usually pianists lay down the first track because you have to tune to that instrument. We cannot possibly tune to another instrument. So I just sort of like knowing you and having worked with you for the past decade, I just imagined how you would play, and I laid on the track. And I have to say, the first piece, Rebecca Clarke, that's not an easy piece to put together separately, but we've
Not at
done
all.
it. And I saw the clip, the final clip this afternoon, and I was like, "That's pretty good." That's, I was like, "Oh wow, we it looks like we were playing together." So, why don't we introduce that piece, and we can continue to talk a little more.
Awesome. Yeah, the Rebecca Clarke, it's Rebecca Clarke for me is a champion because not only is she female, and we're in the midst of Women's History Month. This is super
Mhm.
exciting. It's an exciting time to be a woman, of course. with our first female vice president in the United States. That's
Wow.
awesome. But we're actually behind the eight ball. The rest of the world has been having female leaders. So thank you. Yay. We're
Yay.
catching up. We're getting there. But
Yeah.
Rebecca Clarke, she's outstanding because not only was she a prolific composer, but she was a phenomenal composer.
Yeah.
And she really pushed the envelope in terms of even tonality. So this piece for me is not so much classical, it's more jazz. It's very vocal, it's very sonorous and
Bluesy.
bluesy, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's provocative, it's
Mm-hmm.
sensual, it's all of those things. So to play
Yeah.
this piece with you was wonderful. And even though I wasn't with you, I was with you. I
We
was like,
were with each other in our spirit, and it, as I don't know, cliche as it might sound, it actually, I think people will see that was the case. So here is Rebecca Clarke's Morpheus.
Bravo.
Yay!
Yay.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
That was fun. That was fun to put together. I mean, I didn't put together our digital engineer did it, but I'm kind of curious what kind of adjective this piece provoke. You know, maybe you can add, if you have any adjectives to share, you want to just type it in the chat. Rebecca Clarke. And actually, before we go that to like Clarke's story, I'm thinking of another woman sort of parallelly living in London, like in the early 1900s, whose name is Ada Coleman. And she is the bartender who created the cocktail we shared with you all called Hanky Panky. I am drinking a glass of wine because I just didn't get a chance to mix it up. But there you go. Abby is drinking Hanky Panky, and apparently Ada was a head bartender at this famous Savoy Hotel's American bar from 1903 to 1926. I can't even imagine, I mean, I can't even like wrap my head around what it is to be a female head bartender at that time,
Right.
you know? And then Rebecca Clarke, she was born late 1800s. I don't have her exact dates. And then she actually moved to United States, but apparently when she gave a premiere of this very piece, Morpheus, in New York, I want to say. And she actually had to, I mean, she could perform as a viola player because you cannot hide yourself, but the work in the program appeared to have appeared with the pseudonym Anthony Trent. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, because she couldn't publish it under her own name. And later on, when she actually did that, when actually she published her own work, I think like her Viola Sonata and among other things, people actually thought that her actual name, Rebecca Clarke, was a pseudonym of a male composer because a woman could not have written that work. So that was what was happening about 100 years ago. I mean, Robin, did we come a long way?
Oh my goodness. We have come a long way and we still have a ways to go. But I think it's fantastic to think that here's this woman, who dares to put pen to paper, to create some of the most beautiful music. And this is a rather short piece. It's only at length 7 minutes. And it's a whole world, it's explores for me, every facet of human emotion. For me, even the title Morpheus is very transformative. For me, it resonates very deeply with this period of life on a grand scheme for all of us being, in a whole transition period. But also personally, it's a transition for me. So
You've
Morpheus is
you've
totally.
transitioned, yes. So we were just talking about how you at the beginning of the pandemic, you were at the front line fighting the invisible enemy in Baltimore, and then you moved to Atlanta. So yeah. I mean, tell us what happened.
Well, it was so strange. I think when I was in Baltimore, I was very much burning the midnight oil as an ER nurse at night.
Oh,
And then, still functioning and thriving as a musician, as an artist in the DMV.
right.
And that it's such a rich area for music. It's beautiful. And then all of a sudden things just came to a halting stop. My
That was a
final.
sudden stop.
Oh yeah, it was shocking to all of us. And I think, anytime you rip the rug out from under anyone, there's a time where you have to grieve. There's a shock,
Right.
there's a denial, and then there's a period of grieving. And I think we all collectively were grieving.
Mm-hmm.
All the while, I was still kind of bopping around the emergency department,
Oh my.
taking care of people who were looking progressively worse. Um,
Wow.
Everyone who comes in is in distress, but all of a sudden there was a new phase of distress with COVID being introduced. And I was already aware of it before it was being introduced on the news. So
Right.
it felt very much like I had to not say anything and still fight this, as you said, very aptly put, the invisible enemy, which I
Right.
wasn't even allowed to speak about at that time. It was
Wow.
really uncomfortable. There's so many things that go into, being a healthcare worker, including HIPAA. You're not always allowed
Oh.
individual patients, but like in music, I like to find ways to bend the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And I speak very openly in vague ways. I have to tell my story. I'm an artist. I tell stories.
Right.
So a lot of times my outlet is Facebook or,
Mm-hmm.
or Instagram, where I'm able to share a story without sharing the grave details of
Mm-hmm.
someone's diagnosis or their personal health information, but I'm able to
Mm-hmm.
share concept of what was being experienced.
Right.
And for me, that's very important.
And then now you are in Atlanta, and where you work, you take care of cancer patients.
Yes, it's a huge transition and it's its own world.
Mm-hmm.
Oncology is a very delicate side of nursing, whereas, emergency or acute care is
Mm-hmm.
very, you know, I hate to say balls to the wall, but that's what it is. It's like you get
Right.
in and you just get in the room, you have everything with you, you're taking care of someone who is in an acute crisis.
Like
Um,
every second matters type of way.
yes. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
Every second on the
gotta
clock.
go
Right.
right
And
now.
yes, exactly. Right now. But the
But
care of the
oncology, that's most times like it's a longer fight, right? It's a longer fight, and you're there with the patients for a longer time than when you are with the ER room, emergency
yes,
room.
yes.
You
Generally
really get to
speaking,
know them, right?
yes. And that's, for all for good. It's amazing because I'm fascinated. I love people. I've always been a people person. So, in a healthcare setting, especially in somewhere where there's a fast turnover, I'm not exactly HR or management's favorite nurse because I I will be the one at the bedside crying with my patient. I'm going to be holding my patient. I'm not the one to say, get them out the room, get them upstairs. I want to get them, to a higher level of care, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not going to miss a moment to
Mm-hmm.
connect with someone, even if that means, which it very often does, just being present and just listening, which is what we do as musicians, as artists. We listen, have to, and we have to respond, to
Right.
what's going on.
You
So,
know, I have to say, I mean, nobody wants to go through that room, oncology treatment room. But those who are going through your care, I think I might even say that they're lucky to have someone like you to take care of them.
thank
Yeah. So I just wanna, but that's not an easy job. And a friend of mine who's also a nurse, retired nurse, she talked about sort of a empathy fatigue that can
you.
come to healthcare workers, especially during the pandemic. And um, we it's something that I do want to talk about, sort of self-care. But before we get into that, let's share our second piece because the title of it sort of like fits right to it because it's Roberta Flack's "Killing Me Softly."
Yes,
Yeah.
perfect segue. Um, you know, COVID has been killing us softly, and yet we're now turning the corner and we're finding ways to thrive again. And so Killing Me Softly for me is not only a gorgeous tune that it's singable, any great melody is singable in my opinion. Um, it's, but it's also poignant because it's hopeful. There's a hopefulness to it. And that's where we live right now. You know?
Right. Yeah. So here is Killing Me Softly. I think Ahmed is here somewhere. Can we pin Ahmed? Ahmed Alabaca, who made
Yay!
the arrangement of this piece. And then, yes, hi Ahmed. Thank you
Hello,
for
hello,
making this
hello.
arrangement.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You guys are amazing, and thank you for welcoming me into this space and being able to contribute in such a giving and loving way. I will do anything for Robin, and now I will do
Yay!
anything for you, Greg.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, thank you. Where are you joining us from?
I'm in Chicago.
Chicago. How's it? How are things there?
Good. It's warming up. It'll be a crisp 60 degrees tomorrow.
Nice. I think
Yeah,
it'll be like that here too.
right on.
Thank you, Amir. You know, I have to say, Robin, of all this time going through obviously the pandemic and taking care of the people suffering from COVID and cancer, and then you mentioned how the music industry just stopped at the same time. Any of us who's dealing with one of those is suffering a great deal of depression and pain. You're like, both of those are hitting you hard.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
are you taking care of yourself during this
Oh,
time?
it's a great question. I have to say that just to bounce back to Ahmed, I'm so grateful for you, my dear, for the presence you've had in my life. Friendships, connections are so vital. And Ahmed has been one of those people who I instantly fell in love with, not only for his gifts musically, but also for his heart. He gives so freely of his heart. And people like that, um, we need to look out for. We need to check on those people.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I'm one of those people, but I'm not always comfortable with people checking on me because I'm so used to taking care of everyone. So that's one of my fatal flaws is that I'm so accustomed to being a
Give,
kid.
give, give. You're
Give.
give, giving, giving, and when are you gonna receive? Because
Right.
I go back to, I mean, we've just shared that Appalachian Spring video, and my impression of you is she's such like full of joy and love and light. And you just mentioned to me that you were going through a rocky time of your marriage. I had no idea. I had no idea. And it's hard to share those things, but someone has to check on you and someone has to give to you. And so I know that you're building your sort of support structure, but what has been your way of taking care of yourself?
Great question. Well, aside from community, which we all need, which
Mm-hmm.
the root is unity, of course, togetherness, self-care, physically, mentally, emotionally. I always say that, for me, it's so important to start each day with great intention. I've never been one to sleep very much, but my my pain has fueled some of the most progressive transitions in my life.
Mm,
My divorce was a very pivotal time in my life, which kind of fueled a return to me caring for my own temple, my body. That's the house of your soul. And,
right.
I always was spending so much time and energy running around, taking care of everyone and everything, and neglecting myself. So going through a process of divorce, which is like a death, where you actually have to acknowledge that something is ending, something is dying, and then you take stock of what is happening. And in that moment, my ex-husband, I'll speak very candidly, he actually became my first patient unknowingly. He was someone who was struggling with addiction and hid it very well for a while until he couldn't hide it anymore. And as many things go, things kind of fester within and then they manifest without. And I ended up doing a lot of advocating for him and caring for him physically, emotionally, mentally. And then I had to say, I'm tired. I had to acknowledge that I was tired because I was
Yeah.
doing so much just to stay inspired. For me, inspiration is life, it's breath. Inspire, to breathe. That is my breath, is inspiration. So I'm always looking for ways to stay inspired. And even in so doing, I just found that I was becoming tired. And I said, I have to just stop, assess where I am.
Good
I need
for
to do
you.
something for myself, for me, for the first time.
Right.
And that's when I started saying, okay, I need to start being active. I picked up some weight after, having a baby. And by the time, I started my, journey into health, before I even entered health care,
Wow.
it became about self-health and then self-health care. And I said, well, I have sneakers. I don't have money for a gym or a fancy, class that I can take every week. I don't even have time, but I have sneakers. And I live in
Right.
Baltimore. I'm just going to lace up my shoes and go for a 20-minute walk every day. And I would walk, and I walked to Dunkin' Donuts, actually.
I mean, can we just stop here? And I just have to say, can we just appreciate Robin's shoulder and arms here?
You're so
Because you can really see when you're playing. And
That collarbone is
that
huge.
collarbone and that muscle in your arms and that tone. I mean, like Michelle Obama, cry your heart out, Michelle Obama. And that's, I mean, you can see the transformation. And I hope for a day I can wear a tank top on a Zoom and like, that the fabulousness of Robin just showing. But it wasn't an easy journey, There, like what you see here is a tip of an iceberg because underneath, to get that tone of the muscle and get that bright smile, there's so much work that goes behind it. Because the thing about what I always felt with you, even with your like even through social media, is your authenticity. And I think it was because you paid for that. You paid for it by going through really every part, every bumps of on the road that life throws at you, and you took it and you came out always as the hero that you are. I mean, I remember you coming to rehearsals with Samara when she was like 5, 6 years old. Those of you who don't follow Robin on social media, which you all should follow her either on Instagram or Facebook. But I um I remember Samara at our rehearsal, and she was like 6 years old maybe back then, and she's like a middle schooler now. She looks like your sister, but but she was just dancing, and I remember taking a video of that, and we actually shared it on social media on our orchestra's page. But yeah, I mean that's the sort of the journey that you came through and made you who you are, which is amazing.
Thank you. I definitely believe that, pain is the common denominator between all of us. And
Hmm.
when you can address your own pain then you can move through it. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it goes away. It never goes away. We have
No, it never
muscle
goes away.
memory, right?
It becomes a part of you.
Yes, it becomes a part of your
Mhm.
story. It enriches your story. It allows you to connect with others in a real way. Um, I am so grateful for all of the hell, excuse my language, that I've gone through because it
You've
made,
gone through it,
well,
sister.
yes,
Yeah.
but it doesn't, it also shows that, you know, pain is distinct. I can distinguish my pain from my joy. I can still
Mhm.
have joy that is my cup runneth over, and yet I'm still not satisfied with where I am or who I am or
You're
what
still
I am.
reaching.
Yes, I'm still reaching, I'm still
Mhm.
striving, but I'm thriving in the process because I know where I want to go. It's just like
Right.
music. I always said I was never a prodigy as a musician, but I had a gift for
Mhm.
connecting, and I have a gift for finding my voice. And that voice is not perfect. You know, it's ugly at times, it's muddy, it has its imperfections, but that's humanity. And I'm very
Right.
proud of
And
that.
and the thing about like perfection is never authenticity, you
Yes.
know? It's a mix of, we were talking about cocktail at the beginning. It's that you have to find the cocktail of things that make up who you are. You know, it's part beauty, part ugliness, part pain, part redemption, part whatever it is. And I believe that as much as we're suffering through this pandemic, and also pandemic is just sort of, you know, like discovering all of the ugliness of the society,
Oh,
starting with back then Black Lives Matter and all the things that we're seeing out world. But through it all, my hope is that we'll find a way forward, because you have to like sort of expose your wound in order to fix it, right? I mean, like you're Nurse Robin, isn't that right? You have to show your wound first.
absolutely. Absolutely. You have to know it's there. I think
Right.
sometimes, you know, patients will come to me, especially, and they'll be surprised that they'll come in with an idea of what their problem is. But I like to go beneath that problem and say,
Hmm.
well, how are you? Just how are you can lead to a whole flood of answers through which
Wow.
they can weave an entirely complete story of who this person is and what may have led to the current problem. So it goes without saying that context is critical in all
Hmm.
relationships, interpersonal and intrapersonal. We all have to have an idea of what brings us to where we are. Um, and I like that you mentioned uncovering and discovering. Those are two action words that I think are very dynamic and very appropriate for where we are now. You know,
I
we're on
think
Zoom meetings. We're all like half dressed sometimes. Many of us show up for these meetings. We have on a shirt and maybe no pants, or we have on bunny slippers, or whatever. But it's about
I'm looking at one.
Mhm. Right. Like
Yeah.
who are you at home? Take off the
Mhm.
mask.
Right. Yeah. I mean, really, take off the mask and be who you are. I have to say, Robin, I was actually the uncovering and discovery. I was just fumbling through like, what is the word I'm looking for? I use that all the time because English is my second language. But you actually turned it in a very poetic way. So thank you
No, well, thank
for
you.
making
That's
my
music.
intention more poetic. But before we get into the topic of the authentic self, which we already talked some of, but let's listen to another piece of music, and it's one of my favorite composers, Florence Price, and I'm just getting to learn about her music a little more these days, which is surprising in my conservatory years. I don't know how I never played that. I've never played her music, and there's just a whole lot of problems behind that, which we will not get into because we don't have time for that. But this piece is Adoration by Florence Price. That was Florence Price. I think she was first African American female composer who achieved success, like career success. Um, Another person who really we were just being discovered these days. It took almost 100 years, but 100 years is better than nothing. But better if we didn't take that long. But so yeah, I'm wearing my full makeup today, which is very rare. And I hardly these days, even if I wear a makeup to go outside, never a red lipstick because we're like masked up, or it's a time, it's the pandemic era. So it's a treat today. But the pandemic has taught us to also find the sort of self-love behind, I mean, especially for women, sort of like, you know what? I don't have to wear a makeup every day. It's like and I don't have to have that for a typical Zoom meeting. I don't. Today is very special day just for because I know Robin is just was going to show up so fabulous, and I just wanted to make sure that I'm just reaching at her level. But yeah, so what I mean, Robin, let's talk about that. Mask or no mask?
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that like the question of the day?
Exactly. I think it's hilarious. I like to laugh at everything anyway. That's kind of my default state. Laughter is medicine after all.
Mhm.
But I find that these times have been really fascinating to see people remove the mask of, makeup, or even
Mhm.
even for gentlemen, going to get their haircut, the barbershop, shave and a haircut, 2 bits, whatever. Everything that we thought was essential,
Mhm.
was superficially essential, has been stripped away all of a sudden.
Right.
And I think all of us panicked. Even if you weren't interested in going to a salon, all of a sudden the fact that it was taken away made you,
Right.
you
Suddenly
know,
you need it. That's human nature. That's human nature. When you have it, you don't think about it, and then suddenly someone takes it away from you, and suddenly like, gotta have it right now.
exactly. And I'll say, like, even in the hospital, it was so funny because, a lot of my coworkers, the other nurses, many of them were female in the ER. And I remember, like, for myself, I don't wear makeup at work, except I might, have chapstick on, or maybe eyeshadow just for fun. Like tonight, I have on eyeshadow because it's colorful and I like colors. But I always wear fun earrings because that's just what I like to do.
Yeah.
Um, and I like to do, fun things with my hair just because, it's an afro. I can do lots of things with an afro.
I
But
love your hair. Actually, you and I are wearing hairpiece today, even though we didn't really discuss that.
I
Yeah,
see.
there you go. It's the biggest earring I have, and still, like it's a half size as yours. But that's
I
the biggest one
approve.
I have.
I approve. It meets my
Thank
credentials.
you.
Approve it. But yeah, I think it was funny because in the hospitals, we went from not wearing masks and entering a patient's rooms to all of a sudden we have to wear
Full
surgical mask.
gear.
And then all of a sudden an N95 on top of underneath the surgical mask. And then all of a sudden a face shield. And then a gown. And then double gloves, single gloves, then double gloves. And it just became more and more and more and more. And I found that my patients were increasingly anxious, not just because they were being hospitalized, but we weren't getting a lot of answers about what was actually happening in society. So people
Right.
were already frustrated and confused. They didn't know if they were going to get this mystery virus. What is this? And then on top of that, people are entering the room and I don't know who you are. I can't see you.
Right.
So, I think there have been a lot of creative solutions we've seen on the news where, some hospitals had initiated, masks, but with faces, or different ways to, personalize a very impersonal looking experience. And I think that I've seen people make an adjustment, whereas, we would walk around and this person's wearing a mask. I don't know who you are. I can't see your face. But now it's like, oh, I know her eyes. I know who, So I think we've become more adept at looking at someone more closely in a way, even though
Right.
we can only see this. But
Right.
I know that my patients can see this and they know that I'm smiling. Even though I have gloves on, I'm still holding their hands. Even though I have a gown on, I write my name on it, Robin, and I have music notes, and I have a smiley face. So you know that I'm a musician. You know that I at least love music because I'm probably going to be humming something at your chair or at your bed, bedside. So there are different ways to step beyond the walls, the barriers, and to still personalize humanity and
Right.
still have your humanity. But then on the flip side of that, there is, I've seen and I still see, other coworkers who insist on wearing makeup because they always have. and you know they're wearing makeup under a mask, which I personally find it to be a little sanitary. I think it's weird.
Right.
I
Hope
like
their makeup goes away
a
they
lot of
when they
business
wash.
in the past.
Right. And you know, I have to say, I find myself like when I and also, I mean, I live in a very area where, you know, like most everyone you see, if you step outside, most everyone you see wear masks. But then, like, if you see one person without a mask, I'm like, politely goes around. It's like try not to go anywhere near. And so that's another thing, you know, like I'm actually when I cannot see their full face, I feel more safe around them. I don't know what that says about this new normal, but that's gonna be interesting to see how this moves forward, how we get out of it. I hope that we can get to a place where the physical fabric or whatever whatnot masks can come off, but that we as human beings do not have to put on these layers of masks about who we are and our authentic selves, you know. Um, but that it's really hard. And I come from a culture where women have to weigh at certain weight and wear hair and makeup in a certain way and all of that, you know. And it's hard to break that.
It is. It is. It's very interesting. I think for me, I know that I've always been comfortable not wearing makeup. I tend to, you know, when I'm performing, I'll wear makeup for the stage, you know. But in my everyday life, I don't really wear makeup that much. Um, I just find it to be another thing to do. So it's more like
When you are a mom and
too many
right.
other things to do. But one thing that I think is really interesting is that, at least for my journey with um, exercise and introducing that into my life, I had become so comfortable with sweating, and that sounds gross, you know, perspiring, but there's a beauty and a
Hmm.
cleansing in perspiration, and there's no way to wear makeup if you're perspiring. I mean, some
Right.
people do, but I find that to be an impossibility. So I enjoy sweating because it's you know, I'm getting rid of
Cleansing.
toxins,
Yeah.
cleansing the body, cleansing the skin, and just being free, barefaced, bare everything. And I find that I take I've taken a lot of photos, you know, throughout my career as a
Right.
musician, but you know, most of them I may have on, you know, lipstick or something like that because it's a performance. But in my general, like normal day-to-day life photos, not really wearing makeup. So I think, you know, the convergence of those two lives for me
Hmm.
has not been traumatic because it wasn't that different for me. But I
Hmm.
think for some people, it has been a trauma, a source of anxiety where there have to be adjustments made. I had a patient even last night, she's a representative for L'Oreal, and she's in this chair, you know, receiving chemotherapy, her first day,
Wow.
terrified. And one of her primary concerns is her appearance. How
Hmm.
is this cocktail of medications going to change the way she looks? And that's a real concern.
Hmm.
You know, a
Wow.
lot of patients lose their skin changes, it becomes very dry, brittle, painful, sore. Um, so these are things that, you know, a lot of people walking around on a day-to-day basis don't
Hmm.
think about. But oncology patients have, you know, a
Wow.
lot of different kinds of anxiety
Hmm.
that they're dealing with physically. So you mentioned the notion of um, fatigue, you know, compassion fatigue.
Yeah.
I find that I haven't really experienced compassion fatigue because that's my nature is to be a caregiver. I don't
Hmm.
get fatigued in that sense, but I think I've walked around with caregiver's guilt. And that's a real issue,
Oh.
not often discussed, but the idea that, you know, I'm well, I'm healthy. And at this point in my life, I'm the healthiest I've ever been in my life. And I don't say that um, to be boastful. I say that to say that I work long hours taking care of those who are deteriorating in a way, but so am I. So, you know, even though I may not have that diagnosis, I'm still walking down a journey of life where my body is slowing down. You know, I am getting older. I am eventually going to suffer some ailment, you know, so I don't, to be able to let go of the idea that I have to be sick to take care of someone who's sick.
Or that you have to be sick to understand someone who's
Yes,
sick.
yes. It's really, again, brings me back to what is the common denominator of humanity? It's pain. I have pain. It may not be physical pain, you know, it
Right.
may be emotional pain, it may be psychological, but that pain is no less than your pain. I'm just helping to treat you with this pain, but you may help me with my pain.
Right.
So the patient nurse relationship, it's a reciprocal relationship, much like any other human interpersonal relationship. I
It's
have needs,
yeah.
you have needs. We
It's
all have to
always,
watch
yeah.
those things. Mhm.
It's always the successful relationships are never a one-way street. It's always two-way.
Yeah.
It's always a two-way street. Doesn't have to be the same thing going out and say coming back. I give you in one way and I receive in a different way, and that's how we build. I think it's true even for musicians and audiences. You know, we don't always
Yes.
think that way, but actually, I must say we receive from the audience so much, and I think actually during the pandemic, you know, how difficult it is it to play without an audience.
Mm.
Oh
It's
my
so
God.
hard.
It is so hard. I'm like,
It's
you
so
know,
hard.
if I have this like sort of like you know, my sort of potential 100, audience can push you to get past that 100%.
Yes.
By yourself trying to tap into your own. I mean, it's like you're lucky if you reach a 50, you know.
Right.
It's impossible to, and I look forward to the day that I can play for people, you know. I
Yeah.
mean, one person even that would be fine. But I mean, this just all of this is just beautiful and inspiring, and you know, and that's why we're here. And I can tell you, people, I mean, we've just touched the tip of the iceberg of Robin Faye Massey and what she offers in this world, and we're just grateful for this time that we can not only share music but share the story. They share that story. Um,
Thank you. To me, this is, it's actually, it was scary when, when you even, you know, proposed this idea that it was a very organic, and I don't usually use that word, but it was a very natural process for how, you know, we arrived at
mhm.
Now Show. And I have to give thanks to you, Grace, and to Alejandro for all the work that you've done with Now over the years. And I've gotten to see the development and, you know, the flourishing of this beautiful community-based organization, which has brought life and love to our area. And although I'm in Atlanta, I'm very much still a part of Now. And
Right.
you know, to be able to take, you know, a large concept of orchestral music and to whittle it down to a smaller, more intimate seed And to create art from that is quite beautiful and really always resonated with me. And that's what brings me here. And then on top of that, to work with wonderful artists and have friendship develop over those years, I'm just utterly grateful. So this to me, it has nothing to do with me. It's not about me at all. It's about us, not
It's
just
about
you,
us.
but everyone who's here. I mean, the fact that you all are making time in your evening on a Friday night to hang out with two girls who, single, I'm a single mom. Grace is not a single mom, but, running around
Mom.
with children, raising, at the end of the day, to sit and with your friends. I feel like this is my birthday, and it's awesome. It's just,
And we have so much to share. The thing is, we have so much to share. I have so much to talk to you about. We just talked about being a mom. We haven't even gotten to that. So we need, like, next time we'll get to some of these things. Because we talked about womanhood without talking about our momhood. But I don't wanna have everyone here like all night through, which would still not be enough time to go through all of those discussions. But perhaps our friends who are joining us on Zoom have some questions you'd like to ask. We'd be happy to share, and talk with you. So you can just you can unmute yourself and share your thoughts or questions, or you can type it up on the chat. And so just go for it, please.
I'm just going to say how wonderful this evening was and how uplifting and inspiring it was to hear you. I mean, not just your music, but your words and your, I've had several trips to the hospital and was there for, a couple of weeks one time, and had very painful surgery, and I could not have done it without the nurses. I mean, they were just amazing. Yeah, exactly. So
Thank you, Herda.
yeah, no, it's just, but this whole evening, I love the concept, and it was so personal. And I have some guests coming tomorrow. So I was putting flowers in the vase. I'm preparing some meal, and I'm listening the whole time. It was it was wonderful. Anyway, I'll just leave it there. Thank you so very much, all of you. Terrific.
Thank you for joining us, Herda. Good to see you. I hope you're feeling okay.
Oh yeah, no, I feel fine.
oh, that is so sweet. Thank you.
Thank
That
you.
Beautiful.
Thank you, everyone. I wish you all a good health. And I started to talk about I wish you well, and I know that it's a sort of cliche on your emails, but I always say I wish you well in your mind and in body, because what is more important right now, So, and my heart goes to you, Robin, always, because I know you're fighting the good fight. And I know my heart goes out to you, everyone. I know every one of us is fighting a good fight right now. So let's continue our fight. Let's continue to find inspiration within ourselves and from people like Robin, and continue to share, because that's how we build the community. That's how we build empathy. That's how we're going to fight this whatever problems we have in the world, injustice, misogyny, women problems, men problems, whatever problems out there. So great. I think we're going to share the last piece with you, which is another beautiful arrangement by Ahmed. It's Natural Woman, or You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman by Aretha Franklin.